something I really wanted to dig into a little more was we were speaking about, development of some cool technical, systems. I think a lot of people think about paint and coating systems as being kind of pretty simplistic, and it's on, it's off, looks good or it doesn't look good, and it hasn't innovated a lot for a long time. But there's been a lot going on for you guys recently, right?
Yeah, and one of the things that we've sort of changed is we're selling solutions. Yes, we sell paint in a can, and that's part of delivering a solution. So if you talk about anti-fouling and we're selling anti-fouling, what we're really selling is we're selling a clean bottom, or we're selling kind of an efficient hull form, we're selling a faster kind of platform, or we're contributing to controlling biodiversity and controlling invasive species. So all of our developments around, how can we create the solution? The actual chemistry in a can, that's where we've got the really clever chemists to do, but what we've got to focus on is how do we deliver something that adds value to our customers and helps them enjoy their boats. That's ultimately what we want to do.
I guess it's been, to say that horrible cliche we've all been saying, but it's been a really challenging 18 months, 20 months for the whole industry. But I think especially something like coating systems, where so much of your supply chain is so spread out across the world, must have been pretty hard to keep everything moving. And because, like you said earlier, what I thought was interesting is that every single colour is different, and every system's different, and it must involve a really complex set of circumstances that have to come together.
Yeah, and there's different challenges. Developing a brand new product can sometimes be really a bit easier than keeping some of our existing products going. You talked about kind of some of the raw material challenges, some of the shipping challenges that we've had, getting things around the world to the right place at the right time, that every manufacturer's had issues with. And sometimes we've had to be creative in how we kind of adapt our products to cope with that. What we tend to try and do is we look at, not every place is the same. And I mentioned this morning about how stuff that works in nice tropical warm water you'd think would be just as good in cold kind of fresh water or something, but actually they're completely different. And if we look at traditional biocidal anti-fouling, what we spend our time doing is how do we get as much bang for our buck in the biocide that's in there. So the old school thing of lift up a can of paint, and if the heavier it is, the better it's going to perform because it's got more copper in it. That's actually not necessarily the right way to do it, because if all of that copper comes out straight away, you get great performance for the first 6 months and then no performance for the rest of it. So you heard this morning a couple of our newer products. We're always looking to try and extend it to allow the product to perform at a good level for longer. Mm-hmm. And so that's where we spend a lot of our time is, how can we get the most out of this material and make it last as long as possible?
And we spoke about the anti-foul, and I think that's quite one of those rhythmic things that people think that every 12 months bring it up, and it's really beneficial to have as streamlined a bottom as you possibly can. But I remember you mentioned before that thinking of extending that kind of period for the anti-foul, that it's not necessarily something that just arbitrarily has to be done.
Yeah, I'll come back to we're trying to develop solutions. So ultimately, what we're trying to give a boat owner is a clean underwater hull, and there's different ways to do that. There's a coating method, and that could be biocidal or non-biocidal. There's cleaning solutions. There's can we build in some other functional properties to the coatings themselves to give you longer term performance. So I think particularly moving forward in the next kind of 5 years or so, where there's coming more and more restrictions in the toolkits that we can use in terms of biocides and how we put them into our products, it's allowing us to actually look at, let's change the way we think about this, and let's come up with something that still gives the boat owner a clean bottom, and maybe they don't have to come out every year and anti-foul the boat themselves. But yeah.
So that's using so you would perhaps cleaning it's one option, polishing it's one option.
Yeah.
Looking at the way it's stored, the application, and then repainting and taking out of the water is just one part of that.
Yeah, and it's difficult. I can't give away too many of our secrets.
No,
here,
of course.
Biocides were obviously the original kind of thing. You go back, centuries, and putting copper plate on the bottom was the earliest form of keeping your bottom clean.
Yeah.
So we've got to a point where, particularly in commercial shipping, particularly fuel savings and carbon reduction was a big priority, and so International's been the market leader in kind of low friction foul release technology with its Intersleep brand. But there are other ways to discourage growth on the bottom of a boat, and one of the challenges then, well, how do you scale that up? You know, it's all fair and good doing it on kind of a small little test plate,
Yeah.
but how do you actually scale that up and make it a feasible solution for boat owners, boat builders and applicators? So yeah, we're looking at a range of different kind of options there, and it's not going to be one option, I think, that fits everything. It's going to have to be this blend and balance of different options depending on the situation.
And you mentioned that the way where a coating is applied, and then also where a vessel operates, temperatures, you know, freshwater, brackish water, you know, all these things can affect it. And I guess that a lot of super yachts, and especially some of the larger yachts now with their operational profiles, are going to be pushing all these things to the limits as far as what you're having to kind of,
you know, one of the things that you know, big data and tech has kind of come on massively in the last 20 years. And as a coatings industry, we're sort of, we've not seen the advantage of that until this point. There's now so much data out there. So particularly from our marine side, we can do kind of forecasting and tracking vessels operating route, and then we can predict what the performance of a coating system will be based on that operating profile. Now all of that data is the same data that's given out from super yachts and from, you know, anyone with like an AIS transceiver or something. So we have some of that big data available. We have a massive database of kind of fouling challenges and kind of water conditions and so forth. So actually we can start to move into a kind of a predicting kind of performance side of things and tailoring solutions to operating profiles of vessels. And it comes back to, you know, making the most efficient use of the product that you've got and the materials that you've got, and hopefully giving the owners and operators what they feel is the best value for money. So yeah, I think we're going to see in the next 10 years, I think we're going to see quite a lot of change, not just from us as a coating manufacturer, but from the entire kind of coatings industry.
And I guess not using that data, not in the past as an industry, there was perhaps that tendency to go as strong as possible.
Absolutely.
To use, and sometimes that denoted using chemicals that weren't perhaps necessary.
Yeah.
A lot of solvents, all that, just to cover your bases as long as you could.
And there's this big belief in that, you know, the old stuff was the best.
Yeah.
Now people go back to like TBT-based anti-fouling and stuff, and they think, oh, that was the stuff, and it was incredibly good. But you know, that had been around for a long period of time, so lots of development had already happened with that. When you look at what can be done with some of the current biocides, and you heard this morning, you know, there's a few other biocides that are slowly coming through, and we're getting to grips with how to make best use of them. So things like echinacea and things. There are different things that are coming through that actually give even better performance, and they didn't necessarily exist 20 years ago. So this thing of, you know, the old stuff is the best, that's not so true. It's about how do you kind of maintain that performance for a long period of time, and that's kind of where we make our money, is taking kind of 5 years or so to develop a product, to gather all that track record, all of that data, to then make sure that when we do launch it, we've got the right product. And we're putting a lot of stuff into a kind of communication material as well, in terms of trying to help boat owners make the right decision. So not just go for, oh, I want the strongest, or oh, that's the most expensive, therefore it must be the best.
Yeah, I know I probably shouldn't, but just put it on.
You know, so we're trying to help people make the right decisions, and get the best for their boat and best value for money.
Yeah, so Emma, so with that feeling launch and the eye towards 2024, also the eye towards 2030 with some of the really, well, I would say ambitious sustainability goals. Something that comes to mind is that it's, you know, simply the fact that AkzoNobel is so big. You know, you're a large company, almost ubiquitous across the paint and covering and coatings kind of market. And I think sometimes when you are that size, I don't know if there is as much pressure to look towards sustainability targets. So that's, if it's not a corporate advantage, you know, why set such ambitious targets?
Well, I think the easiest way to respond to that is, you know, I couldn't disagree with you more. It's really important that we set these targets, one, because we lead our industry, and it's important that others follow and we lead and take responsibility for the opportunity of being the most sustainable coatings provider in the world. The second point is that we need to keep innovating, and not just from a products and services point of view, but actually innovating in terms of not standing still. There are many companies who have not succeeded because they haven't developed and moved with the times. So we need to stay ahead of our industry, ahead of regulation, and ahead of technology. And from a people, planet, paint perspective, it's a really important strategy, not just for AkzoNobel at corporate level, but for our BU. From a people point of view, we have an inclusive work culture. From a planet point of view, we aim to use as much renewable energy from renewable sources as we can as part of our 2030 environmental targets, and help our customers along the way to reduce their impact, but also be aware of what that impact is. And then from a paint point of view, it's about not just innovating to have a sustainable product for our customers, but actually it's about reducing less waste and doing less harm on the planet.
Sure, and I think, part of that would be a strong message, and to put it bluntly, I think that paint has a bit of a bad reputation and is part of a group of products that doesn't necessarily seem to be part of a sustainable future. And I think you have to be there's a few hurdles to overcome there in the public imagination as to what makes a good paint and what is sustainable.
And it's really good you say that, because I think you can equally have a good paint that performs ahead of expectation, that has an extended life cycle and is also considered sustainable as well. What's considered sustainable today isn't what will be considered sustainable tomorrow. So it's really important that we continue innovating and helping to educate our customers to be aware of their impact and make sure that our products have a positive impact on the world and our customers.
And I guess the metric of success isn't necessarily selling as much paint as possible in that regard.
No, absolutely not. Obviously, sales are a way in which our business is measured, but reducing and removing waste, be it through the application process, be it through how our customers wash their brushes and rollers afterwards, but also overspray if they're spraying as well. And if you use our product systems, you'll need to use less in many cases. So it means that in those three ways, we can easily help make our customers be more sustainable in the way they apply product, even if they do buy less, but it means if they buy less, they'll waste less. Yeah,
and then I guess, the bottom line is the bottom line, but we've got a growing industry and we've got a lot more surface area out there of paint. So perhaps that's where the growth is you're trusting that the market's going to increase in size.
Yeah, well, from a sustainability point of view, the growth is through two areas. One is through our existing customer base of people who are experienced yachters who choose us as their brand of choice, whichever brand of choice within our stable they use. But the other one is through new customers. There's a massively changing demographic of people since the pandemic who have had access to boating, and as market leaders, it's our responsibility to educate them not just about the basic maintenance of their boats and how they can get the best possible finish that performs and is sustainable, but actually aware of what that impact is of their products and their boating, and how our products can help them reduce that impact.
And that's working towards all of those targets: 50% reduction in carbon emissions, 50% of energy coming from renewable sources. Correct. And the other one that I thought I'd like to ask you about as my last question is the 30% of female executives, which is not represented across our industry. That's a blunt and honest assessment. We're far behind across the board, I think, in terms of diversity and inclusion. And so I was excited to see that as a target for AkzoNobel.
Yeah, and as a woman and also a lover of our brands and our business, diversity has always been a massive focus of AkzoNobel, whether it's the changes you see in people, be it gender, be it race, be it ethnicity, or changes or things about people that you don't see, so experiences, education, and the things that make up their background. But then none of this is worthwhile if you don't have an inclusive culture, and that's something we're really focusing on within our business unit. And I think the 30% target of female executives is entirely possible. AkzoNobel have a number of female leadership and emerging leaders programs, which will enable us to reach that goal.
Great. Well, thanks so much for taking the time, Emma. We really appreciate it, and hope all is well up north, and we'll hopefully see you at Monaco.
But it's, you know, it's all about expectations, aesthetics. You know, sometimes paint can be too good. You know, if you've got a boat that's not fair and you're running down it in a bit ripply, this is quite a good example of GRP boat that we've got here. You know, sometimes you do want, this is where orange peel is your friend. So sometimes even you're choosing the right product for the type of finish you're going for. So, you know, if you've got it fully flat and fair, you can have the ultimate paint job that flows out, perfect DOI, all of those things. But put that on something that's a little bit ripply, and it's going to accentuate those ripples. So, you know, a little bit of peel. So we can, depending on what sort of top coat you're talking about, you can adapt with your solvents, you can change the look. We teach people how to do invisible repairs, and that may be even putting texture into the repair to match the sort of original paint job. So we're paint nerds, you know. I love it. Wasn't an ex-applicator, enjoy doing it, and it's a great thing. But we've got so many choices, and I think the first thing is people go, oh, I don't know what to use, and that's, you know, they can talk to us and we can advise them. You've got a dirty environment, you're never going to get it clean. You want something you can polish.
When I started years and years and years ago, there was kind of that adage that all grip's great, but you can't repair it.
Yeah.
You know, that was, you know, wonderful quality paint, but don't nick it, because you have to cut. You're going to have to do cut lines all the way back.
Lines everywhere. Right.
But as I understand it, the HDT kind of works on overcoming some of the.
So you've got. It's interesting because people talk about that boat being all grip. So all grip is.
Oh yeah,
it's
it's
the
a
brand.
verb.
But then you've got the products within all grip. So you've got Allcraft 2000, which is an acrylic, effectively. That is polishable. You've got the polyurethane, the G-line, the one that you're talking about, absolutely right, unrepairable. You have to do taped edges.
Yeah.
But you've got such high gloss levels, flow, looks phenomenal. But there was that, you know, boats are getting bigger, and if you're looking at, you're having an inspection, they talk about square decimeters, 5 dust particles per square decimeter. It's impossible to paint something of that size.
2,000 square meters a hull, or so whatever it is, on some of the big ones,
Just can't do it.
Yeah.
So, you know, we needed to look at something that's repairable, that still gave us the G-line appearance and look. And it's not a replacement, it's just another, you know, we say this thing, it's another tool in the toolbox. It gives an applicator the choice of what they want to do, and the end user. You know, there's more than one customer in this industry.
Yeah.
You've got the guy that buys it, the applicator, but ultimately there's someone at the end of it that's buying the whole vessel. So you know, you have to get your ducks in a line to know, you know, what's the end user want, what does the applicator want. So we have many choices of product. And the thing is the industry needs to change as well. We can bring the best technology with paints, but if the industry doesn't embrace it and change with us, it's very difficult to do. So what do we mean by that? Water-based products, the different dryers, different ways of drying the product. So they're going to have to change potentially their spray boost, their way of working, and that's a very difficult thing to do. So it's going to be very much an industry-led thing, where we need people to come with us.
We can't blame. We can't just say, well, yeah, these are the paints that show up. It's not our problem. Sorry about the environment.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know,
So we've got to do it with
go all
them.
the way down.
So this 4 or 5 year development we do, we pick sort of key influencers or people that we work with to help us tell the story. So if you have a success, you know, no secret now, spray fill of the first boats we did were with Princess in the UK. We've got a great relationship with them. We've worked with other paint applicators on the top coats. But you need, I think people need those testimonials, all that confidence moving forward. But for me, you know, we've been playing with them 4 or 5 years. We know they're good. It's just getting that message across. And today, even you guys coming to play with the product, it's good for you to see that actually, you know what, I've not done this before, and this looks all right, you know, and it can only get better.
Yeah, well, embarrassingly, I have done this before, and I've got the worst section, so we'll definitely edit that out.
No, this is picked up soon. So we've got a foul release
Yeah,
system on here, so it's probably hit here,
And then come
and
up.
this has got like a silicone in it, so it's gonna this is actually, it's good for people to see, this is silicon. So what you're seeing is the substrate grinning back through where the product doesn't adhere because it's got a silicon contamination.
You know exactly what to say to make me feel better. So thank you very much.
If you're filming that, I'm just making him feel better.